Harry. So Harry, if you want to kind of give an overview of where the project's at, and when we get to the point where there's stuff you want to share with the board that's more confidential in nature, let us know. We can go into executive session on that.
Sure. So good morning, everyone. I think there's some of you have not met, but thanks again for having us here. So since we last spoke, there have been a number of changes on our side in terms of strategy and development. So let me start about the power generation side first. New York had a tender due on May 12th, and it's a tender for acquisition of 1,200 megawatts of power by JCIDA by providing RECs. We're one of 7 firms, in the finalist that is bidding for it. We have asked for 240 megawatts out of the 1,200, but our total development for New York is 2,400 megawatts. So over the next, by 2024, 2025, we expect to develop 2,400 megawatts of power in New York already. And that's all solar. The strategy of the company, which when we started in 2012, was to eventually be a manufacturer. We want to bring the supply chain back to the United States. We have had experience in a number of different markets, and we think the timing is right. When we had discussions from January till February, March, I think the last time I met you guys was in February, I think. We were planning on developing 50 megawatts to start with a footprint of around 50,000 to 60,000 square feet. March, we closed a transaction with SunPower, which was the second largest producer of panels in the country. That deal is closed. We have purchased all of the production lines. The production lines total 700 megawatts per year of production. So all the purchases are done. We're currently dismantling basically 2 football fields worth of equipment, and it's being torn down as we speak. We expect to start transporting that from mid to late August and September to bring it to Watertown. We plan on keeping all that machinery at the land that we're in discussions with you on. So we are pregnant. There are a number of challenges, but I think we expect to find ways to get around it.
So that equipment you bought is located in the West U.S., I believe you said?
It's in Oregon.
Okay, I didn't want to disclose the state unless you.
Yeah, it's public actually.
Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't want to.
Yeah.
So it's U.S. just moving from one coast to the other, basically.
Yeah, so basically SunPower, and again, please don't use if somebody's on.
This is,
This is live.
So it's public. So I think I'll just tell you what's public thing. So SunPower did move away from production to manufacturing. They have moved it to a subsidiary of Total, which is called Maxion, which is I believe Asian owned. So they are not manufacturing. So we picked up the production lines. We wanted to support American jobs. We wanted to bring manufacturing the production lines back to the United States. So we felt that this was a good move, and we are in partnership with SunPower to make this thing happen. So the senior management of SunPower has been forthcoming and wanting to see that the machines are not being junked and they are actually being put to work. So I think we do have a good relationship with them, and I think we're working towards getting this live. The target is for us to be live by July 2022. At that point, I think we're the second largest producer of panels in the country. We expect to grow that significantly.
This may not be public, so don't answer if you don't want. Will any of the SunPower team help integrate your manufacturing?
Yeah, so we have offered positions to a number of team members. I believe 2 are coming over, but it's a challenging move for others who are who've got families in Oregon.
Mhm.
But many of them have agreed to come on a consulting role to come in for a period of time to.
Give greater certainty to
Yeah.
set up the line
Yeah,
properly.
and they do care. I mean, the relationship that we have with SunPower is quite good. They care. They want to see that they are putting this to a positive use, which is manufacturing staying in the United States.
So to be clear, that no ownership, it's still Commvault Energy.
Commvault is 100% owner.
Okay, it's your company still.
It's our company. We're 100% owner. We
Buying equipment and know-how and consulting.
correct. And we do have very good shareholders. Majority of the shareholders are all people that I used to work with at Credit Suisse. So the 5 shareholders are all ex-CS. We've all worked and known each other since 2003. So we have a vision of wanting to build this into the top producer of panels in the country. But what is interesting is we're just not a producer of panels. I mean, we built our firm based on power generation. So we've been working in very, very difficult markets. If you look at what's happened in Myanmar, we were there since 2012. We had partially exited that project in 2019. So we're in a number of different challenging places, but the U.S. is going to be our largest development. So we're going to continue to develop. Our target is 10,000 megawatt of power generation projects by 2025, of which at least 2.5 to 3 gigawatts of that is going to be in New York. But we are expecting to grow that across the country. And our targets at the moment is to basically get groundbreaking and get the factory up and running by July 2022.
The initial factory, I think you said it was like 200,000 square feet.
So now it's changed. It's 315,000 square feet.
And that houses the 700 megawatt line.
It houses the 700 megawatt. We're looking to put a 50 megawatt line in addition to that.
Okay.
We're under current discussions to pick up.
Co-located in the same shop.
All co-located in the same building. So we would look to have about 750 megawatts. The production lines carry 2 types of panels at the moment. One is a 60 cell panel for rooftop. The other is a 72 cell panel for utility scale. So along with that, we have created a program which we'll be advertising pretty soon. It's called Make Solar American Again. We actually have copyrighted that, and I think we're really going to push that, and we would want to install panels directly on roofs of homes. So you're going to hear from Commvault Energy. Somebody had a comment? Sorry.
I think it's just background noise.
So our plan now is to get the financing on the debt side to get the factory up and running by September. We want to groundbreak at October at the latest. So we're in discussions, but I think what is important is we do need to get a number of approvals, contracts in place before we can get to lenders. We have had preliminary discussions, but everyone wants to see some binding agreements in place. And then the second part is we do want to be sustainable in our factory. I mean, the last thing we want to do is say we're in the solar business and consume gas-fired power and coal power. So it would beat the purpose. So we would like to install as much solar power as possible for generation of the power in the factory, probably even set up a battery unit. We do expect to be in that space pretty soon. So our targets are pretty aggressive, but look, I mean, what's the point in not having aggressive targets, right? So
The 700 megawatts for interest, is it multiple lines or is it one continuous line
so it's
that?
2 production lines.
Okay, because you said 2 styles of panels and I wasn't sure.
Yeah, so it's 2 production lines. So one production line is a 60 cell production line, the other one is a 72 cell production line.
Okay.
The difference between that is the 72 cell is more heavier than the 60 cell, has different sizing. because it's got more cells in it. And obviously it produces more power because it has more cells. The 60 cells primarily for rooftop. The third line that we're looking to do is actually building integrated PV, and that would be glass panels with solar in it. It would be it would be not fully transparent, but it's glass on glass with cells in the middle, so light passes through. You won't have full visibility across, but it will be glass on glass.
So those could be used for like skylights and manufacturing, things of that style.
So just your regular glass panes that you see.
Okay, so just
So,
windows.
so storefront windows, basically you would, instead of see-through glass, maybe there's a couple of pieces of glass that generate power and then one see-through glass, right? So those are things that we're going to be playing around with. We've also put together a pretty good team, people that have done this for 30 years, some of the top people in the country. They're working with us. So, I mean, look, we've gone a long way since our last discussion. Like I said, I think we're fully baked. Right?
Thanks for coming to Jefferson County.
Yeah. So I think the key now is, for us to advance on whatever is left, to be completed, to move this to financing, especially debt financing. I think the equity side has already paid up, got significant value that we've invested already in all the equipment. So we just want to move forward with this and try to accelerate this whole process.
We're all seeing examples in the economy of deficits and shortages and lack of manpower. Your construction phase, should things move forward, come to the will of the airport, I think you can meet that all right, get that building up.
Yeah, I think
it's not an issue.
Yeah, so like I said, there are going to be challenges. I mean, we're currently in the midst of creating and piloting all the equipment, and we have seen the prices go up 3x on lumber from the time we estimated.
Mm-hmm.
So when we estimated this transaction back in January, we had a number, and that lumber cost, so we got a quote from a local company in Oregon, in Hillsboro, and they wanted to charge $1 million just to crate and pallet.
Not surprised.
Okay. So in this entire process, the quotes that we received from the crating company, plus the quotes that we received from two construction companies, including Riggers, was just astronomical. So in this entire process, we just set up and moved forward with Lincoln Infrastructure, which is one of our companies. So Lincoln Infrastructure hired the people, and we are now basically tearing down the entire facility, which no one has ever done that size of a tear down in this country at all. So we've basically set up a company, and we're actually in the midst of actually doing it. We're about 30% done at the moment. We expect to be 100% done by the end of September. But we have learned a lot from it. So I actually had to drive to the lumber mills on July 1st. And I think you were a year ago. So I actually had to drive to the lumber mills to get intelligence on what is actually happening on lumber before we could budget. And then one of them came out and said, prices are down 43%. You're going to see that show in the market in 3 weeks. Don't buy any lumber until then. So literally I drove 3 hours. That was the best piece of advice I got in a 3-hour drive. And I just drove 3 hours back. After the 10-minute conversation, I drove back 3 hours. So, I mean, so we've seen all these challenges. Labor is going to be a problem. Like I said, we've got aggressive timelines, but I do think that what's the point not having aggressive? We have to find solutions. So we have to find solutions. We have to get to the budgets, and we have to hit it. If we don't, we understand it. So we're actually putting in a lot. So normally contingencies are usually 5 to 7%. We're actually putting 15 to 20% contingencies, primarily because of this, because we never expected lumber costs to go up 3x, transportation costs to go up 3x. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. The numbers that we're getting from rail, are 2 times more than trucking. I mean, it's just completely upside down, right? So
you've satisfied yourself, you've gotten some trucking companies to assist, because I know West Coast is very congested, both at ports and trucking and finding.
The answer is no, we have not finalized. We are still in, early stages. What we're trying to do at the moment is to optimize how we're creating and packing to cut down the volume, because a lot of it is just volume, so we're trying to cut down the volume. So we're going through that process, and I think we'll put out a tender probably first week of August. We'll put a tender out and try to understand, what.
So most of the things aren't gonna be oversized loads, they're gonna be crates, they'll fit in vans or flat.
With the exception of the laminators. The laminators are about 6 inches off each side of the truck
Okay,
of a trailer. They're off by 6 inches.
that might not be considered oversized.
Actually,
I think anything under 10.
the problem is they are saying that it doesn't matter. You're off by 2 inches, you're off, right? So, that's DOT. So, and we've got a lot of laminators. I think we've got 14 laminators.
Yeah.
So, that is something we're trying to solve for right now. But, these are technical challenges. We'll get through it. Yeah, but look, it's exciting. Almost every person that I've spoken to, it's like, wow, I mean, I don't know how you're gonna pull this off, but, we'll find a way to get it done.
And I know these are kind of minor problems, but so all of these parts need to then show up on Route 12F and go through that apron, which isn't probably sized for all the trucking and oversizing. And so those are the style of things you're gonna have to do some land development once we get the LDA in place to actually start receiving both for storage and lay down and then construction and access.
Right.
So those are all the early things that you're gonna have to, at some point, stuff's gonna be moving from Oregon to here. You don't have a place to put it.
And believe it or not, I think I might just take a box truck and just do one trip just for me to understand, what challenges we're going to face. And look, we're a very hands-on team, and I'm very hands-on. So I literally am seriously thinking about getting a rental box truck from Penske or whatever, and just doing a trip. I did a cross-country drive already, so I have an idea of what 80 looks like. But, September also is a challenging month. I think they shut down 80 towards third week of September. I think they shut it down. So I would need to figure out a bypass also for that. So we're going through all these motions, and we want to actually do one trip just to get a feel for what are all the challenges we're going to face.
So when that stuff starts arriving here, you want me to building to put it in, it'll be all right, and it's containers until you're building.
Yeah, these are crates, pallets. We're just going to tarp it and put it on the ground, and hopefully it doesn't rain and flood and flood things up. So these are things that we just need to work through.
Don't put it in the swamp.
Yeah.
There's a wet area.
We want to talk financials?
Yeah, any financials that you want to discuss maybe in executive
I mean,
session?
just other than, are there really other public items that you want to go through, like we already?
I'm happy to answer any of the questions that you have in a public forum. I think financials and stuff, I think we.
Yeah, Harry, employment though, I mean, on the application, the pilot application, you put down 50, but I think you're being conservative there. You're actually.
That's super conservative. I think the production line is going to need about 290 employees to start.
That over the 3 shifts?
That's just 2 shifts.
2 shifts, okay, so like 125, 130 per shift, or whatever, you said.
Yeah, so I mean, if you run 24/7, 365, the issue that we're trying to calculate right now is, does it make sense to pay people overtime versus adding more people? And then, what happens if you do overtime? Are people going to get tired? Is it going to lead to other issues? I mean, these are things that we're playing around with, but we think it's about 290 employees, 2 shifts. We might be able to squeeze 3 out of that, but if we're going to run nonstop, I think we're probably going to need
You
to
might
staff
consider a
up.
light 3rd shift for maintenance or retooling or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, retooling is about 10 days a year, maintenance about a day a month. And then you would have to do periodic maintenance as you just keep going along.
And I think the other item besides permanent jobs, there was, I think you disclosed like 300 or 350, I forget the exact number. There's a significant construction contingent to this.
Yeah, so if you look at the facility, it's 315,000 square feet. I mean, it's a pretty decent sized factory, right? And that's gonna take 6-7 months to get up, plus all the automation engineers that have to be on site to get the equipment to work.
Yeah.
The threshold for the conveyor belts is about 2 millimeters. So if you're off by 2 millimeters, it doesn't work. And this is it's a fully automated line. We've got about 80 robots. And it's a lot of.
I think one of the other things you use goes in, there's a fairly high bay storage as well. So this building will be rather tall in certain sections for both storage and part of the automation.
Yeah, so the current height, if I'm right, is about 24 feet, I think.
Not as tall as I thought.
It's between 24 to 30 feet, but it's pretty consistent all the way through.
Okay, so it's just one, I thought I remember some impact that you needed a fairly high storage area.
The storage area, what we did was we decided to add more storage on a
You just want
lateral
horizontal.
basis. Yeah, because you can't, and what we realized is you can't stack the glass. So the glass that is used to make the panels, you can't stack it. So when it comes in the pallets, it's basically on the floor. We can't stack it.
You just took up more floor space rather than
Correct.
going up.
Yeah.
Sure.
What's the timeline on your building construction?
Ground break target October 1, finish it by June.
October 1 this year.
Yeah. Pour the cement in. Once the cement is poured, you can move all the equipment onto the floor, right? And then you just got the sides and the top. So so just take the crates and put them on the cement floor, and then you start building up.
Is part of the building gonna have like overhead craning and things like that nature
So we have internal cranes,
Okay.
but we don't have overhead cranes. You don't need that because they're not that heavy, because once you put them
So the
on.
equipment's easily enough to rig with some local equipment or other
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
'Cause I mean, you talked about how close they need to be set, so I mean, obviously the anchor bolting and grouting and all
Yeah,
that.
almost everything is bolted down to the floor.
I just meant that you're gonna let this thing settle and do this thing before you start getting stuff in place. So if you're building the building, you kind of you have to have all your rigging inside.
Correct.
Okay. That's all.
Will you be putting any of the bids out to local contractors?
We are going to do that. We will put out bids to local contractors, see what the numbers come out to be, and then make decisions from there on. We currently use a union shop for electrical in Oregon, so we are going to support union jobs, and that is a policy that we're following, and we're also going to be hiring primarily from Fortran for staff. So we made that commitment already. We're very close to bringing one gentleman on board from Fortran. I think you all know that. We're in discussions with 2 more pretty senior people coming out of Fortran. So our commitment is already there. I mean, in fact, I'm there this afternoon to meet up with the transition team. So look, we're quite clear about wanting to bring the jobs back to America, but also employment for veterans. These are 2 key themes that we're going to follow. And what we would request is, if you've got developers knocking on your doors for solar, just see if they can buy panels from us or come to us. I think that would be something that would be extremely beneficial for the county and our commitment as it provides employment. I mean, these contracts will provide employment to folks. So please do keep that in mind as you get people knocking on your door.
So as far as what you talked about, employment numbers, once the LDA and everything's in place, you gotta get into infrastructure, site storage to store your equipment, then you gotta actually start digging for the foundations and footings and then build the building. So it's pretty regular ramping up to full scale.
Yeah.
And then production by, you said, June of next year.
Yeah, so we're targeting June. Look, it's an aggressive timeline, but we do want to have 1 full quarter of revenues next year. And this is a pretty sizable plant. We're at 700 megawatts, so you're looking at revenues north of $200 $250 million a year in revs.
With the way the lines are, you run one without the other, I'm assuming?
No, they will run concurrently.
No, I meant for your first quarter that you're trying to create revenues, like if you had to focus on, say, if I can only get the 60 cell, like, I know that's not your plan.
Yeah, that's not our plan, but, at the very least.
They're not connected is all.
Yeah, I mean, they're separate.
But you could run one without the other if you ran into difficulties in, say, the bigger or smaller one.
Correct.
So you have some.
There is flexibility.
Okay, good.
And again, we're looking at the third 50 megawatt line on top as well. So, we would have, ideally, we would have 3 lines in that shop.
When New York State commits to the, how many gigawatts of renewable energy, you're in the mix for 2 gigawatts, is it right now?
So New York has a target of 30 gigawatts by 2030, I believe, or 2035. I don't know the exact. 2030. Out of the 30 gigawatts, our expectation is about 8 gigawatts should be solar, probably another 8 to 10 of wind at a bare minimum. I actually think solar is going to go higher than people expect. So they are coming up with various tenders. The last tender was 1,200 megawatts of purchases on RACs. We expect more tenders to come out. Our first development, the project is called Max 911. So if you go online to the NYSERDA tender, you will see Max 911. That is, we're asking for 240 megawatts of installed capacity. When the next tender comes out, I expect us to again bid for it. But our total development at the moment is 2.4 gigawatts between now and 2024.
And that process amongst the developers is on a bid basis, you're bidding.
Right, we're bidding for the
70
RECs.
cents a kilowatt.
We're bidding for the RECs. So we're bidding for the RECs in terms of, they want to see what is it that we are asking for in terms of RECs. And I'm assuming that the folks that have the lowest REC prices will get selected, or based on some calculation that NYSERDA makes in terms of weight of RECs and the manufacturing and so forth, they would then assign the RECs to the people that they select.
When New York State fulfills their requirement, is there any power purchase agreements tied to that or supply?
Well, the RECs, so you basically sell the electricity to the grid, and then the RECs support that, because the price that you get for selling is very, very low. As well. So the RECs augment that. So you would have a sale contract with the transmission company or NYSERDA, where you have an agreement to connect and to sell, and then the RECs would then come on top of that. So there'll be an agreement on the RECs.
So you're not necessarily at the whim of the wholesale market.
This is not at the moment merchant. It is not at the moment merchant. However, we may have an allocation of power that we would go merchant. So out of the 2.4 gigawatts that we're developing, we might take a portion of that and say we're going to go straight to market. Where in New York, we're allowed to sell to anyone. But it's risky.
What time is it?
11:15. So
What happened to your interview?
Any financial, detail any financial business strategy stuff we want to discuss at this point, or that you'd like to share, Harry, in executive session?
I'm good unless he feels he needs to explain more in executive session.
Up to you.
We're good then.
All right.
I'm good.
Alrighty, moving right along. 3.5 hours. It's your fault. No.
Well, it's like, these projects we get every week, right?
That was resolution number 0709 2021.05. The resolution of the Jefferson County Industrial Development Agency, the agency accepting an application submitted by Conval Energy Incorporated for itself and/or on behalf of one or more entities to be formed, including Convolt Manufacturing LLC, collectively the company, with respect to certain project as described below. Authorizing the scheduling and conduct of the public hearing with respect to the project, describing the forms of financial assistance being contemplated by the agency with respect to the project. Authorizing the execution and delivery of a land development agreement with the exclusive option and license LDA to be entered into with the company, and authorizing the issuance of a notice of disposition with respect to real estate owned by the agency. I'd entertain a motion, a second, on this resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? On the resolution, roll call vote, please.
David,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Lisa. Yes. Paul.
Yes.
Resolution carries. Thank you, everyone. Anything else, Dave? We're moving ahead, Harry. No, you're good.
Thanks a lot.
I thought you wanted to. No.
Didn't we have, I don't know, the preliminary?
We just did the project
Just
resolution.
the LDA, okay.
We just did the initial project resolution.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay, all right, all right, yeah.
LDA.
We didn't do the LDA or the. Yep, it's all done, yep, it's all set, yep.
LDA is included in the initial.
I forget just a simplified thing, it said how long you separate agreements, it kind of brings them all
I
together.
think you've been on vacation or something.
Saves a lot of time. A lot of it spent working.
Justin still with us?
No.
No.
We lost them.
Anything else, Dave?
Oh, just to let you know what, we did finally, we've had this in the works for last several years, back when Addie Russell got us the allocation of $500,000 for the dormitory, to where it cost. So it's been part of the budget. We finally got that contract approved here a week and a half ago, so we can, when we're ready, file for reimbursements from that project.
So David, maybe we should go to executive session, because I do want to talk about some of the things that are coming,
Okay, sure.
which you guys should know about, if you are here to news. So,
We have a
I'll
motion.
move. We move into executive session.
So to discuss the corporate financials and proprietary business strategies.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Let it note that the LDC members are